The Lincoln Lawyer Ending Explained. This show focused on reformed defense lawyer Mickey, as he inherited a law firm, clients, and a murder trial. It was wild, to say the least, with an ending that left a season 2 well on the cards. Let's delve into what happened and what it actually meant. So let's jump in. Here is The Lincoln Lawyer Season 1 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Throughout the show, we witnessed Mickey battle a few different things. Addiction, a murder trial, the want for redemption, and the morality between right and wrong when being a defense lawyer. The main case that he was working on was the case of the People versus Trevor Elliot, which centered around his wife and lover being murdered in their house. I thought this case was extremely compelling, and the show executed exactly what it needed to, pulling the wool over our eyes and keeping the expected unexpected. We went through a whirlwind of a ride, thinking that Trevor Elliot was innocent and that he had nothing to do with it. And Mickey managed to convince the jury that too, because he actually believed it himself and built a case around lies. Unintentionally, that is, as Trevor did actually go on to commit the murder. There were a number of different things that pointed to it being Trevor that we completely disregarded throughout the episode. Essentially all of what the DA was putting forward as part of the trial, such as the weapon being the same as what it was in the game, and also the fact that we saw him do that leg rub when he was being interrogated. We were told by the person who's an expert at reading people that that's something that he does when he gets nervous. We were led to believe that it was a Russian investor who was dangerous and had money at stake if Trevor and his partner were to get a divorce. But in fact, that was a total lie. Trevor fabricated that story and wanted to kill his wife due to the fact that the game that he was developing contained code that she created and technically owned, and she was planning on moving to another company, which would have meant that she would have taken the code and all of the success with her, exposing Trevor for a fraud. This was something that he obviously didn't want to happen, as he would have also lost his fame and fortune, which was something that we knew he cared deeply about. But more importantly, it was the acquisition of the gaming company and the financial gain that he would have lost. I thought it was extremely interesting the way that they decided to approach this. In the first episode, when we were introduced to Trevor, he mentioned something called the Uncanny Valley, where if you make something as close to a human as possible, and you keep them as engaged as one can possibly be, then people will believe it. And that's exactly what he tapped into when he took the stand at the trial. He had already won the case, but he wanted to cement his supposed innocence by utilizing that. He was good at making everything seem real. As Izzy mentioned earlier on in the season 2, life can look very different behind all of those zeros, and it did for Trevor. He executed a murder that only money would essentially allow you to commit, and he managed to get away with it. However, he did meet his fate eventually by receiving what was described as the brass verdict, when he was killed by a close friend of his wife's lover, showing that things do come back around to get you. Tapping into the morality of Mickey's decision of being a defense lawyer, he always wants to play by the rules, and Trevor didn't. The second major story and case that was overarching all of this was the murder of Jerry, the person whose law firm and clients Mickey inherited. It was another case that went through multiple avenues and had multiple suspects. It was even connected to Trevor Elliot's case, but it was actually revealed right at the end who the murderer was. It turned out that the very person who handed it to Mickey at the start, Judge Holder, was the person who ordered the murder of Jerry, and was also the person who rigged the jury in several cases, almost having it as a way of making an extra 6 figures on the side. Mickey's skills at being a lawyer and picking up on the small details in conversations were what cracked the case for him. He remembered that her husband was a defense lawyer and represented McSweeney at one point in his career, who was the person that was placed in the jury by Holder. However, he was told to leave town by her when the anonymous letter was given to the court. He was also the person who tried to kill Mickey in the penultimate episode. Holder ordered him to kill Mickey, however he was unsuccessful in doing so. She was also the person who hired a private investigator to bug his car, to be able to hear everything that he was saying about the cases he was working on. This then led to Holder being arrested and Mickey walking out looking extremely smug and proud of what he just achieved. As you would be. The final case that was being worked on all throughout the show by Mickey was the thing that turned him to addiction and was the oldest case out of them all. And this was the case of Jesus. This one tied into the ending specifically as well, and is what I believe will set up a second season. Jesus was one of Mickey's cases from the past, where he was an innocent man and was convicted of murder. due to something that was out of Mickey's control. Mickey was relying on a witness called Gloria Days turning up, but she was scared off by a vice officer threatening to convict her if she were to take the stand. It turned out it was all lies, and she wouldn't have been convicted, and the person who ordered that vice officer to make the threat was none other than Detective Lee Langford, who had a personal vendetta against Mickey, and the fact that he was a defense lawyer. He did it because he didn't agree with what defense lawyers stood for, in the sense that they represent criminals and try to get them out of jail. This time around, it turned out that Jesus was actually innocent, and after Mickey's personal connection to this case, he got him out of jail and went up to watch him get released. When Gloria Days did take the stand, she mentioned that the person who actually committed the crime had a tattoo on his left arm in Japanese writing. And then right at the end of the episode, the final thing that we saw when we saw Mickey heading off into the sea, where we saw this individual waiting for Mickey. All eyes are now on the hunt for this man with the tattoo, following Jesus' release, and he has Mickey to thank for that. So next season, I think we're definitely going to see more of this case and Mickey's personal battles coming to fruition. The show battled addiction in a couple of different senses. One in the sense that Mickey battled with his own substance addiction, but also in the sense of how Mickey is addicted to his work. It's something that ruined his marriages. His first marriage with Maggie and his second with Lorna. He even joked with the officer how they both don't have a life outside of work. But although it's his weakness, it's the very thing that makes him so good at what he does, and gives him the purpose to steer away from his other demons. Every character at the end of the season was heading off to do something different, and was developing forward. We had Maggie no longer being a district attorney, and after securing Angelo Soto's arrest, it looked as though she was going off to have her own firm to battle this case specifically. Cisco had debts that he needed to repay to the Road Saints and looked as though he was going to be doing that, as he believed that if any debt was in his name, he has to repay it himself. Lorna was going off to study to be a lawyer, as she held many of the desired skills and assets to be one, as we saw all throughout the show. And we saw Mickey taking some time for the first time to do something other than work, which we know that he struggles to do. The conversations that we saw being taken place all throughout the show in the car between Mickey and his driver Izzy was in fact the actual journey that we saw him take to go and meet Jesus after being released from prison. So in essence, we were witnessing the end of the episode all throughout the show. I saw it as two different things. Yes, it was the journey to the actual prison, but it also acted as a medium for us as the audience to be educated on the way a courtroom and law is practiced, and it was Mickey's way of talking to us about what makes him the skillful lawyer that he is, and a way of understanding him on a personal level, just like the way that he was informing Izzy. The slow pan of the reveal of the tattoo on the man's arm watching Mickey is definitely setting up a season 2 of the show, and we'll likely see the murder of Martha be a case that gets addressed next season. What did you think of this show? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.